not watch this video if it is late at night, okay? Some of you guys wanted scary content. Here it is. I'm scared, and it's not night.
This may be the scariest story ever that I've ever heard. A guy writes his experience and he says that his wife started peeking at him. At first, it was pranks. So he'd be like in the kitchen cooking his dinner.
Hold on, why is there a note here that says we're going to see the pictures and footage that he collected of his wife peeking? I don't even know what that means. I don't know if I want to know.
And he'd notice, or he'd feel like someone was watching him, and he'd turn around and his wife was just... He said that it always used to make him jump, make him scared. She was hiding behind walls, under tables. And she'd never like say anything. When she was caught, she'd just run away. She started doing it in really obscure places. Like she'd get in an ottoman and just have her eyes poking out.
Yeah, the goosebumps on my legs. So that's peeking. Literally just... I would have filed for divorce so fast. You have no idea.
It really started to freak him out and scare him, so he used to shout at her. And then he said that it kind of stopped for a bit. And while they were having dinner one night, he said, "Oh, you're not peeking at me anymore." And she said, "Maybe I'm just getting better at it and you're not noticing me." But then it starts getting creepy again, and he's noticing her a bit more. It's scaring him even more that she's not reacting to it. She's not laughing, she's not going, "Hey, I got you." She just runs away, walks away, and never acknowledges it. And there's one time where he's in the bathroom and he's hearing like this weird sound. And he gets in the shower, he's locked the bathroom door, and when he turns after being in the shower for God knows how many minutes, she's peeking around the curtain at him, and her hair and her face is soaking wet, and it really scares him. So he shouts at her saying like, "This needs to stop." And she goes, and he gets out the shower and he locks the bathroom door because he's too scared to be around his wife. And he says he's in the room for 45-50 minutes, and he starts hearing this like really like heavy breathing, but like excited breathing, and he thinks that she's next to the door, but he's too scared to look underneath the door in case she's under there staring. And then he says that he's working up the courage to unlock the door when he notices the cupboard in the bathroom door is slightly ajar, and she's just been in that cupboard. I feel sick saying this. She's just standing in this cupboard, just staring at him.
No. No thanks. I'm telling you. Divorce. That's your marriage? I didn't even know peeking was a thing. This is my first time hearing of this. I just sounded possessed right there.
45-50 minutes, and she looks excited that he's caught her out. So he unlocks the door, he runs to the bedroom, grabs the bag and gets in his car and drives away, because he's like, "I don't want to live like this. It's gone further than a prank. She's scaring me." Goes to his brother's house and he tries to explain like what's going on, and his brother's like, "Yeah, okay then." And his brother's wife's like, "I think she's just playing a prank." And he's like, "No, it's gone beyond a prank. It's terrifying. It's like she's haunting me. She's a creep." And then his wife starts texting him saying like, where have you gone? Why are you doing this? But never apologising, never saying sorry. And he just replies like, "You know what you're doing. Until you admit to what you're doing and it stops, I'm not coming home." He decides to stay the night at his brother's house. And
tell me she's peeking at his brother's house.
For bed, they're in the lounge. She's there at the window, and there's like saliva marks on the window, and she's just staring at them. And they all get creeped out, they all scream, and then she's gone. And he's like, "Look, I'm telling you, there's something wrong with her." So he calls her mum and he says, "Look, what's going on?" And this mum just declines even talking about it. She's like, "I don't have time for this, bye." She obviously knows something's going on. He stays at his brother's house for a while. I don't know how long, but he says he's there for a while, and he finally needs to get more clothes, and he works up the courage to go to the house. So when they get to the house, they open the doors and it's all dark. She shut all the curtains. It's in the middle of the daytime, but it's dark. So the brother goes around and he's opening some curtains, and they can see that the place is just trashed. And all of the, like, family photos have just been shattered. She's just trashed the place. And he goes upstairs to the bedroom to get his clothes. And as he's going up the stairs, he can smell rot and decay.
Oh. Oh. I am scared for what is to come. What is the rotting smell? Let's hope that it is YouTube friendly.
I'd turn around. I'm not dealing with that. I'd call the police. No,
I'm so scared.
Go into the bedroom, and that's where, like, a load of the mess is. There's photos strewn over the place, broken picture frames, just everywhere. And he's getting his clothes, and as he lifts up a pile of his clothes, he notices an eyeball. But he says it's a small eyeball, like an animal's. And in the cupboard, there's just eyes of different shapes and sizes that are clearly just from murdered animals. And he shouts and freaks out, and his brother's like, what's going on? He's like, something isn't right here. And that's when he starts hearing, like, that excited, raspy
Stop!
breather. And he looks under the bed, and she's there, just staring at him, excited that she's being caught. And he says that he was just petrified. He just stood there, and he said to his brother, like, go and get help, go and get help. And his brother's like, come into the bedroom. He's like, don't come in here, go and get help. Her hands are covered in blood because she's, like, holding this glass, and it's just been cut in her hands. And he gets down to a level, and he's like, look, babe, you need help. I want to help you.
This is a horror movie, right? Like, you're reading the script of an actual horror movie. This cannot be real. But there's proof that we're gonna see. I don't know if I want to see it.
After all, it's his wife, a creepy motherfucker, but it's his wife. And she reaches her hand out to him, and he goes to grab it, and then she stabs him with a bit of glass. And then he's like, what the fuck? And then he's just like, what? And he says that at that moment he knew that that wasn't his wife anymore, and they just ran down those stairs. He said that he felt like she was running after them, but they didn't want to turn around, and they got in the car and they drove away. He was too scared to go to the brother's house, and so was the brother, because she'd already been to his house. And he says he ended it, and we haven't had an update from him yet, but he ended it saying that he got himself in a hotel room, and he says that he keeps on feeling like someone's watching him. Ugh! Imagine being haunted by your wife, by something living. That's disgusting.
This has to be like a demon or something, right? We're moving on to a part 2 to the story.
So the peeking wife, let's go over some details that I missed out. So she's got a name. Her name is Lynn, and the husband's called Ben. Really normal couple, together for 6 years, married for 11 months before this started happening. Their life was great. Happily married, lived together, no red flags for 6 years before the wife started acting up like this. In the story as well, it's also mentioned that Ben loved horror movies, loved it. Lynn hated anything horror, hated any pranks, was a very stern woman when it came to pranks and horror and jokes. She didn't like it, she didn't want to be a part of it. The first couple of little peeks were just innocent little things that Ben thought, oh, she's just being a bit kooky, a bit silly. And when he confronted her, at first she would laugh about it, and she was like, well, you scare me enough, so we're even now.
Matt better sleep with one eye open. I might start peeking. Nah, that would be so weird.
Her peaks obviously got scarier and scarier when she's underneath tables, in ottomans, just
the ottoman.
Being a weirdo. Ben says that his life was a living hell. He was constantly living in fear, having to look behind corners, behind sofas, check everything because he thought she was going to be there. He was living in fear. Ladies, take notes. It got really scary when she was peeking at him in the shower. Now, what I didn't mention is that he was by himself that weekend. Lynn had gone to see friends or family, and he was just
shut up
playing on his Xbox or whatever men do, and he decided to have a shower before bed. And I'm going to read out what's actually written because it is gross. It's disgusting. Lynn was peeking from behind the shower curtain, her entire head stretched into the shower, leaving just her body outside. Her long dark hair hung against the curtain, the ends dripping with water. Her mouth hung open in a terrible grin, eyes wide and red as if she hadn't blinked in a while. I screamed and jumped back against the wall. She didn't move, nor did her smile waver. Her makeup ran down her cheeks into 2 black streaks. She looked giddy and completely deranged. Yeah. We stood like that for a few minutes, neither of us saying a word. Finally, after what felt like forever, she slowly pulled her head back out of the shower, and I watched her blurry figure through the curtain as she moved backwards towards the bathroom door. Now we know that she never left. She just pretended to leave and stood in the bathroom with him for 45 minutes, staring at him from a cupboard. He married that.
Let me tell you. I would not react well to this.
Now, when he stayed at his brother's house, we know she was creeping on him there. And she was sending him some texts. These texts read, "Can we talk? I love you. Please call me. I'm really worried. Can you answer? Just come home." We know when he goes home, there's an absolute crime scene for animals, eyeballs everywhere, just awful. He runs after him with some glass. They call 911, happened in America, and they get in the car and they drive away. He has to go to the hospital because he needs to get stitches in his arms, and he can't go to his brothers, his friends, or his family because he's just so scared that she's going to just terrify them as well. And I do think she's haunting him. I know people say stalking, but haunt. He's being haunted by his wife. It's disgusting.
Stalking? Like, we live together. How do you even explain this to anyone? To someone at the hospital? To a police officer? How do you possibly explain this? My wife is peeking at me. You sound crazy.
He goes to a motel and he's just there for a little while until he gets a text from her that says, "I found you," with a picture of the motel attached. No.
Now it's considered stalking. We're moving on to the actual photographs that this husband has attached with the story. So let's see if we can find her peeking. I have a feeling I'm gonna have nightmares. Ooh, I don't even want to press play. I see it. I see her eyes in the ottoman. Don't look at me, weirdo. Yeah, that ottoman is like the worst. Don't look at me. In the doorway. I can see it. I can see her. There's a video. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Oh, that's really dark. My brightness is all the way up, but I see the slobber and everything on the window like they said. I don't want to keep watching. I don't even see her. Ew. I see her. Oh, look at her outside. Like, that's weird. Girl, we need to get you some help. Oh, I don't like that. I'm not watching this. I don't trust nobody. I'm just scared something's gonna pop up. I'm so scared. I'm alone and I'm scared. I don't know. What if his wife comes after me next? Girl, I rebuke this. You know, we need to get this girl some help. Clearly. With all due respect. Since I'm sweating, let's hydrate, everybody. Let me know what's in your cup. It's hydration station time. It's water in mine because I have a feeling I'm gonna need it to flush out these toxins and demons that I may possess during this video. Cheers. Why is it coming out so slow? Focus.
I lied. Because this story that I'm about to tell you is the scariest story I've ever heard. If you're new here, hi.
Great.
I just talk about some pretty scary stuff, and recently I opened an email where anyone who finds this page would be able to submit their ghost stories. And let me tell you, not only have I been getting an abundance of stories that I have loved reading that are from every corner of the earth, these are actually scary. What I mean by actually scary is exactly that. They actually freak me out. On my last video, I said this was the scariest story that I've ever heard. This one.
Man, let's get to the scary story then, shall we?
And as you can see, it's still day out, and that's the only time I really film these videos is during the day because I'm a scared cat.
Now?
So I don't know what that's about because I thought it was my boyfriend pranking me. So I looked outside and there's no one there. Only when I did the intro for this person. So I'm going to redo it, and if it happens again, I hope it's on video. So
I'm telling you now, if I'm ever filming a video and I start hearing scratching, I'm burning this whole house down. So I will no longer be on this channel, and you guys will know what happened.
Anyways, this story comes from Dakota, who opens the email like this. This is the story about a who disguised itself as a little girl and haunted me for 2 years. Dakota then gives us some background context and says that she's a medium. She has seen, felt, heard, and touched spirits since she was around 5 years old. Which in retrospect is really scary when you think about it. But she says it all started when she was staying at her mom's house 2 hours away. She had a friend who lived right in front of the woods, and they decided to play hide and go seek. So Dakota finds a great hiding spot in between a shed and a chain link fence.
Every possessed child starts with hide and seek. This is why I don't trust little kids. Any horror movie that has a little kid, I'm like, absolutely not. I gotta switch my legs. Hold on. Crisscross applesauce. I like that I was in my PJs.
And she says she was hiding, looks over to her right, and on the other side of the fence is a little girl staring at her. And as soon as her and this little girl made eye contact, the little girl reached through the chain link fence and grabbed her wrist. Dakota yanks her hand back and looks back at this little girl, and she is not there anymore. It is also to be noted that this was around fall time, so there were leaves on the ground and branches and twigs and etc. And she didn't hear anyone walk away or run. So Dakota runs out, tries to tell her friend what had happened, and her friend is just not having it because she's scared. Fast forward 2 months, and she's back at her dad's house and having a sleepover with an old friend. As Dakota and her friend are talking to each other on her bed, she looks over at the doorway, and the little girl is standing right in the doorway. She didn't really think anything about it because at the time, all the neighbor kids were allowed to just kind of walk in her house. And I know families like that, so I understand. But she did a double take, and the little girl was gone the next time she looked. She asked her friend, "Did you see someone?" And her friend said, "No, I didn't see anyone." And Dakota said, "Little did I know this was the beginning of a 2-year ordeal." Dakota says every day since then, she sees this little girl in her house. And this little girl doesn't talk. She's just staring at Dakota a lot of the time. And sometimes she would only show half of her face from around the corner. And I'm going to quote this. But her favorite thing to do was watch me sleep. Dakota includes in her email that she likes sleeping in complete darkness. And the only thing that is radiating light in her room is her alarm clock that is blue. And she says every single night she would wake up and see this little girl standing in the doorway, watching her sleep. Dakota says that the most active this little girl was when she was home alone, cleaning her room. Dakota, while cleaning her room, looks over into the living room, and just for some context, she lives in a trailer, so it's completely open concept, so you can look through rooms. She looks into the living room and sees a little girl standing there watching her.
At this point, you might as well be her friend. Like, if we're living together for 2 years and you're not going to say anything, I'm going to start talking to you. I'm either burning the house down and moving, or if you're not harming me by any means and you're just chilling, I might as well be like, "Hey girl, what's your story? Let's chat. What do you need here? You keep watching me sleep."
As soon as they make eye contact, the little girl runs into the kitchen. So Dakota follows her. And once she goes into the kitchen, the little girl's standing in front of the fridge. The moment they make eye contact, the little girl runs into her dad's room. So she goes into her dad's room.
Oh, they're playing a game of
there.
hide and seek
She's
here.
looking around, nothing. Hears a loud bang coming from the laundry room. Goes into the laundry room. Sees a little girl standing in front of the washer and dryer. And she runs back into the kitchen, and Dakota didn't see her the rest of the day. And Dakota says that it was really common for this little girl to not speak ever, but she would want Dakota's attention, so she would run around and kick things and knock things off counters and slam cabinets, etc. But fast forward 2 years, and Dakota's obviously used to it by now, but she hasn't seen this little girl in 4 months. Until one day, she saw her in her dream, and it was Dakota's first lucid dream. Dakota says that she goes to sleep, wakes up, and everything in her dream feels so real. She turns over at the clock and it reads 3:16. When Dakota turns her head back around, there the little girl is. And she looks normal little girl that she's seen for the past 2 years at this point. And all of a sudden, this little girl starts to look really mangled and disgusting. She starts
like what you see in the horror
developing
movies.
this smile and these teeth, and sprints at Dakota, where Dakota falls back in her bed and wakes up. Looks over at the clock, 3:16. Dakota gets up, goes to the bathroom, and as she's standing up from using the bathroom, the little girl's standing in the doorway. She looked like the same little girl that she's seen the past 2 years, until again, she looked really mangled and disgusting, and sprints at Dakota, where Dakota falls backwards, screaming. And they had this animal cage in their bathtub at the time that they were cleaning. Falls back on that, and she could feel the cage under her. But nonetheless, she wakes up again. And it is, again, 3:16 a.m. But at this point, Dakota is too scared to move and too scared to do anything, so she just sits there until the sun comes up, where she feels safe.
I mean, how long can you live your life like this before we say, all right, I'm out of here?
Dakota then, that morning, started to feel this burning sensation on her back, goes and looks in the mirror, and there's a huge gash on her back from where she fell onto something. Her then best friend comes over later that day and also has spiritual connections, and tells her about this dream that she had where she was watching in third person, and verbatim
that's weird.
describes the dream that Dakota had twice. And at
Ooh,
this
that's
point in time,
weird.
Dakota did not tell her what was going on. Dakota then ends her email by telling us that if you see a clock or a phone in your dream, it means you're not really dreaming.
Oh.
And as corny as it sounds, she really and truly believes that this little girl was disguised as trying to get her when she was in her most vulnerable state.
Terrifying.
Sleeping. But that experience was 5 years ago, and she hasn't seen that little girl since. And this is all I'm going to say. I don't know how people deal with that stuff for years. I dealt with it for a month.
You dealt with it? Have you guys ever had a lucid dream? I used to date someone that had night terrors where literally he would wake up screaming because we lived together because he was having these horrifying, very vivid dreams that felt so real, and they wouldn't wake him up until a point where he was like screaming. It was terrifying, and I wasn't even in the dream, but it was terrifying. One time I remember he woke up and I was asking him, I'm like, oh my God, you're safe, but like what was happening? What were you seeing? And he literally said there was like this dark figure in our doorway charging at him while we were in bed. Lucky me.
Shout out to all of those TikTok videos that talk about if you're walking in the woods in Appalachia and you hear something or you see something, no you didn't, because I think that just saved my life last night. Storytime. Excuse the garage. I'm at my parents' place, and this is the only place my dog is allowed, who plays a crucial role in this story, by the way. He's a very, very good boy, and last night proved it. So, my parents don't live in Appalachia, but they do live in an area that's a little more secluded. It's still a suburb, but it's pressed up against these hills with lots of untouched wilderness, and coyotes are running through there all the time. It's just a little bit more rural. So I'm sitting in their backyard, which has this tall fence all the way around it, and the wilderness comes right up to that fence. I'm sitting there around the campfire. My dog is laying beside me. I got my laptop open and I'm writing my little stories. Suddenly, my dog lifts his head, stares straight ahead at the fire, doesn't even like look around at the yard, stares straight ahead at the fire and starts to growl. All dog owners know that your dog has different types of barks and growls. This was his warning growl. This is the growl he does when there is danger coming and he's telling it to back away. So immediately I'm like, buddy, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And then I hear a voice at the fence line. And it's not just any voice. It's the voice of a little girl.
No, why? Why is it always little girls, man? God, I stand no chance.
And it sounds like a creepy doll from a horror movie. It's got that kind of like mechanical quality to it. And it's kind of like muffled and garbled. I'm still getting the heebie-jeebies. And all it does is go, hello?
Oh.
Just like that. Just like that. Hi, just same tone and everything. Now, mind you, it's midnight. There are not going to be any little girls wandering the woods at midnight. So immediately, I was like, well, this is either someone who's gonna me, or it's something else. And what made me think it was something else was the fact that the voice said again, hello?
All right, if I'm hearing hello, no hesitation, goodbye. Simple, end of conversation.
Only this time it had moved, and it had gotten closer, and I'd heard no footsteps. It was just floating closer. And then, mind you, my dog is still growling this entire time. For the next 5 minutes, that voice is just circling the fence line, going,
That's
hello?
terrifying.
Hi, hello, hey. Like, just like that creepy doll voice floating
Nope.
around the fence line.
Nope.
And then suddenly my dog stopped growling. And he put his head down and he went back to sleep. And the voice stopped. I thought, okay, cool. That was weird. And then all of a sudden he lifted his head back up again and started growling. And then the sound of a ticking clock came from the bush directly across from me. Again, heard no footsteps, heard no rustling. Just a ticking clock.
Why are you still
in the
sitting
middle
there?
of the night, in the middle of the woods? So don't know what that was. But if anyone wants to hop in the comments and let me know, that'd be great.
Sick.
Because I can't wait to go home today, and I don't see myself coming back here anytime soon. And a big shout out to my protector. Yes, big scary boy.
I don't know how anyone is staying by that fire after the first hello. Are you out of your mind? No thanks, little girl. No thanks. If you guys know anything about these woods and the theories and conspiracies behind it, put it in the comments because this is news to me. News to me, but it's pretty convincing.
This is one of the scariest stories I've ever read. It was posted 10 years ago on Reddit by an account called A Writer Named Williams. It was on the subreddit called Let's Not Meet. The story is called Poker Face. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this very scary story.
I'm
This happened
set.
in Antioch, California. It was around 2 a.m. I was at a friend's house, safe in warm, sheltered suburbia. We were having a lot to drink, chit-chatting, enjoying ourselves, of course. When you're having fun, time hits the fast-forward button, and those few minutes turn into an hour. I had too much to drink. My friend has a bit of an abrupt bedtime, so I had to dodge out early, still intoxicated. I felt too shameful thinking I'd be asking too much to stay in his house to sleep off the drunkenness. I suppose he was either too rude or too drunk to consider it himself. Whatever. Sometimes a little inconvenience makes you appreciate everything else. I needed about another hour or so to sober up and drive back. As fast as time passed during my stay, it decided to drastically slow down as soon as I stepped out of his house. It was a cul-de-sac area, a concrete jungle with the stem of the street breaking into a fork. Alongside the road, my car was parked. The only street light that worked was in the middle of the cul-de-sac circle, about 80 yards away. I stumbled towards my car, produced my keys, and felt the metal line up. Opened my door and shifted to the back seat. Because this was a dark, strange, and unfamiliar neighborhood,
God,
I
I'm
took the
scared.
leftover newspapers and a sweater in my backseat to cover myself up. I was a little scared. I wanted to camouflage myself and not just be some guy awkwardly sitting in his car, waiting for time to pass in order to drive home. I couldn't fall asleep. The uncomfortable feeling of a cheap backseat bed enshrouded in darkness didn't make the chance of slumber easier. It felt too ominous, and of course my mind began to wonder. I thought of worst-case scenarios, like how the police would shine their lights on me through the window, or a drunk driver hitting my car, and... Wait. In the distance, about 100 yards away, I hear footsteps approaching.
Oh, God.
The gravel scuffed with each step forward, growing in proximity, but
Let me
periodically
guess.
taking stops.
It's a little
I
girl.
wondered why until it made sense in my mind. Whoever it was probably looking through cars carefully, with the intent to steal one. I couldn't recall how many cars were on the block, but I counted 3 full stops until he was at my window, breathing. I froze. There was no more than 1 foot between us. The car encapsulated me as I lay hidden beneath backseat clutter, forming myself into an object, trying my hardest to be unnoticeable, unmoving, and simply not there. I see
What, you just hide?
said a
What do you do?
40-plus-year-old man.
Just
in
scare
a
him.
perverse
Boo.
baby talk.
what I
I
would do.
imagine when you were playing hide and seek and one of your friends tricks you into coming out, he said it in that tone of voice, as if baiting you, like he was questioning whether the clutter in the back seat was just clutter or a person. I didn't want to move or check the
I think
window.
that might
I
be
remained
creepier than the
cluttered.
little girl.
Give me an Academy Award. My body reacted by minimizing my breathing so much that I felt paralyzed. I dare not to look. My eyes fixated on the back of the passenger seat. I didn't blink, I didn't move, I didn't breathe. My heart was pounding so hard it shook my body with each throb. He circled around the car. My ears didn't fail me. I heard the steps. I felt like I was part of the car. I could feel him touching the trunk as he carefully pressed down on it, as if to test the alarm, as if to test me. I was in the middle of fight or flight. I couldn't do either without elevating danger. I was frozen and hoping to God he was bluffing. He circled the car again. The door handle to my right jiggled. He was pulling it multiple times. I see you. Same tone, but more agitated and stressed. More convinced that he was trying
I
to
can
make
only
that
imagine
clutter
that
move,
this is heightened
revealing
because
itself to be
you're
one of his
drunk.
expectations that it was me. My muscles tensed like a cow before slaughter. That had to be metal against glass. Take a penny right now and tap your window. A crowbar, a knife, a rock,
Ew,
a gun. My eyes
stop
fixated
it.
on the seat in front of me, never averting my gaze like he was. I was covered enough to where I couldn't see beyond the seat in front of me.
Well,
I know I couldn't see him, but I can feel his eyes resting on top of me.
My name is
oh,
Poker
jeepers.
Face. What's your...
Ma'am. That was not cool. That was not cool. It just scared the f out of me.
name?
The voice changed, in a lower, demented, and serious tone. My mind forced a visual. It wasn't anything human. I already accepted my death. I was ready to be shot in the head, ready to take a life-changing bullet, multiple knife wounds. Just make the sleep bearable, not excruciating, as you drained me of life. I wouldn't know how to react. My thoughts grew dimmer. I imagined my friend waking up the next morning after a calm night of safe and sound sleep, only to discover my mutilated, defiled, and bloody body hanging outside of my car
Whoa,
door.
let's freaking buck up and go, man. Get out there and start fighting this guy. Worst advice ever. But like, play dead in this clutter, try to fight this guy, or just make a run for it. Those are your options. I thought I saw something. I'm seeing things because I'm watching scary videos.
It was then I heard nothing but my own heart. What was this person doing now? Just staring at me in the middle of the night, talking to me, or a messy pile in the back seat? Time froze. The footsteps were being swallowed in the distance. Thank God he left. I waited another hour until the sun showed hints of itself. I jumped in my front seat and bolted out of there, wide-eyed and sober. And that's the end of the story.
I don't know how you made it through those 2 hours. There's no way, guys. There's no way. What would you do in that situation? I'm not lying there. I'm telling you that right now. I'm not laying there waiting for that to slowly happen. Like, I'd rather just make a frickin' run for it. Anyways, sending positive vibes. Stay classy out there. Stay sassy. I'll see you tomorrow.